High stakes, heart-pounding moments, pressure like you wouldn't believe, almost flops, and moments that I will always remember. This is the Nick Solomon Show, the Sports Strata Podcast. Let's get it started.
Spangston scores! Blake Clark! Watford for the win! Yes! Yes! You can't make this stuff up, folks.
Guy that all young guys should really take back and look at what this man has done.
Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 10 of the Nick Solomon Show, the Sports Strata Podcast. And, guys, I have been waiting for an episode like today's for 14 years to be exact. I have been a Michigan fan since 2009. Back then, Tate Forster was the starting quarterback. Rich Rodriguez was the head coach. And throughout the 2010s, Michigan was good, but they couldn't win the ones that mattered. At the end of every year, there was Big Bag Red in Ohio State sitting there waiting for you. And at the end of every regular season, they will show you who the real kings of the Big Ten are. For 11 years, that was the case. But the past 2 years, we've gotten over that proverbial hump. We have smacked Ohio State 3 straight times. 2 prior years, seasons ended in heartbreak because you had gotten over that mountain. And then you got over that mountain again, but you came up short in the playoff format, when it was really time to really shine through and show that you are a program that is deserving of the spotlight. Well, folks, for the very reason I am wearing this hoodie right now is because my Michigan Wolverines are your 2023 national champions. We did it, guys. We absolutely did it. It's been a couple days since the final clock ticked down of the championship game, as I've had some time to reflect. And honestly, it's still sort of surreal. I still can't believe that they're national champions. There's been so many years that I have been a fan that it just didn't even come close. The past few years even more so, because you felt like they had the team to go the distance, but came up short. This was a team of destiny. In many regards, this was the year of destiny. The national championship game, regardless of what the score was, and Michigan won the game 34-13 in dominating fashion. Dominated the scoreboard. My prediction was 31-21. Okay? I underpredicted Michigan's score and I overpredicted Washington's score. Ooh. If anything, I'd rather have gone that way. The over and then under. But as much as the end score reflects, there were many moments throughout that game where it was really close. One possession would change it. One possession and a stop would change it. It was very much close for a good chunk of that game. It had every Michigan and Washington fan sweating for a majority because you felt like there was a stop and like the other team had momentum to take advantage of a mistake or maybe to build off of a lead. And it just, for the middle quarters of this game, for the meat and potatoes part of this game, it did not happen. But there were some really big plays that really helped spraying open this game. Donovan Edwards, who has been riding coattails of Blake Corum all year long, was fantastic stepping up in his place a year ago when Blake Corum went down with injury. Hasn't really been getting the touches the last few games here, but when he touched the ball this game, he made it count. He popped off a 41-yard touchdown run with about 10:14 left in the first quarter. Wasn't touched. And then he did it again, a 46-yard touchdown run with 2 minutes and 23 seconds left in the first quarter. But he wasn't the only one. His running mate, Blake Corum, also wanted to get on the mix, and he popped off a 59-yard run in the first quarter. I thought he would go the distance, but he kind of got tripped up. Shout out to Cornelius Johnson for continuing down the sideline to help spring blocks to help him even get further down the field. I think Blake kind of ran out of gas a little bit, or maybe the trailing defender, props to him for not giving up on the play, running him down. But those weren't the only big plays that we had in the game. Tight end Colston Loveland had a remarkable 41-yard catch and run that was about 7 minutes left in the first quarter that set up another Blake Corum touchdown in the game. Actually, it set up his first touchdown of the game. But that pass was beautiful and on the money by J.J. McCarthy. Will Johnson had an interception on the first play of the third quarter. I mean, right off the gates, interception. That was huge because just before halftime, Washington went down the field and got a field goal, got points on the board. They were coming out of halftime with the ball, so that could be a big momentum swing there. Stop that right in its tracks. Interception the first play of the third quarter. And then late in the fourth quarter, the game felt like it was intact, but you never know. It was 2 possessions. It was 27-13. Washington was driving the length of the field. They were what is sort of considered the high red zone area. And Mike Sainristil, the captain of the defense, one of the most intelligent guys on that defense. That defense is loaded with leaders, loaded with intelligent playmakers. But Mikey Sainristil is the leader of that. Okay, if you are watching a game, you're really focusing on the defense, his impact is exponentially, I believe, more valuable than any other piece. Just looking at the eye test, forget what the stats and the numbers tell you. He comes up with an 81-yard interception return, got it down to the 8-yard line late in the fourth quarter. I thought he would score too. It looked like he was going to score. I think he could have, but that was such a ceiling interception. I mean, I thought it was over when they went up 27-13. I felt good. I felt like that's it. Boom. Here we come. Here comes the national championship. But Washington was driving. This is college football. Washington can score just like that. Still have high-flying offense. And honestly, the game was left open for, like I talked about earlier, in the middle of the whole entire game. Second and third quarter. I mean, it was 20-13 for a very long time. Michigan left this door open many, many times. They didn't extinguish it, like the flame was still lit. So many times they were going to give Washington the chances. So many times Michigan did 3 and outs, or they had 4-play drives or 5-play drives, like consecutively. Just leaving the door open. Just leaving the door open. Extreme shout out to the Michigan defense for hanging in there and not just clamping down on Washington's high-flying offense, but as I spoke about last week, Texas pressured Penix, 16 times and got 1 sack, but Penix was able to move within the pocket and still throw darts down the field and carve them up to the tune of 430 yards. Michigan pressured Penix on 27 of his dropbacks. They pressured him 17 times on the 27 dropbacks. They only sacked him once, but each time that they would shoot the gap, that they would get pressure on him, that would hit him after he would release the ball, he would feel that hit. By the end of the game, Penix was in pain. Penix was getting hurt because he was just getting beat, and that is what you do. That has been Michigan's calling card. They have their deepest defensive line, one of the best defenses in the country, probably over the past couple of years. Honestly, this group I would take against maybe any other defense the last couple of years. Even Alabama's from 2020. Relentless pressure and making Penix get off of his comfortable spot. Yes, he was able to move within the pocket against Texas, but he wasn't able to do it so freely this game versus Michigan. The game MVPs, offensively, it went to Blake Corum, who rushed for over 130 yards. Michigan, by the way, as a team, rushed for 170-something yards in the first quarter alone, or 160-something yards in the first quarter alone. But Blake Corum, 2 touchdowns, 130-something yards on the ground, popped a huge 59-yard rush. He's your offensive MVP, and so glad for him. He has been a warrior all season long. He's been through a lot. Towards ACL or had surgery on his knee late last season, as he was probably one of the best running backs in the league. If he doesn't get hurt late last season, he might be your Heisman winner or your Heisman runner-up. Very easily could have been. The defensive MVP went to Will Johnson, and credit to him, made the interception to open up the third quarter. Locked down or had the assignment of being matched up versus either Jason Polk or Rome Odunze, 2 really good wide receivers, and did a great job when he needed to, one-on-one tackling. Had a couple bust assignments, but played a really solid game. The real defensive MVP, in my opinion, should have gone to Mikey Sanderstill. Number 0 on that defense. If you watch that game, he flashed more than any other defensive player. More than Mason Graham from the defensive line, more than Junior Colson, the linebacker, Will Johnson, Makari Page, whoever from the defensive back, Mike Sanderstill made big plays when they needed to. Whether it was sure single tackles, coming up to make a tackle. He had that 81-yard interception return that pretty much put that nail in the coffin. To me, Mike Sanderstill wasn't only the defensive MVP of the national championship game, but he's also the defensive MVP all year long. Such a vocal leader on the field and in the locker room. I mean, the dude started off his first 2 years as wide receiver and then just casually switches to defense, and in another 2 years becomes the best nickel corner in all of college football. Dude, I cannot wait to see him on the next level. He's been absolutely one of my favorite players to watch all year long. You could see the makings of it the last couple of years with him. But, Mikey, I'm giving you a shout out, giving you your flowers here right now. The season that Michigan just wrapped up here was a season that won't be forgotten anytime soon. Yes, to open the season, Harbaugh was suspended 3 games. Yes, to close the season, Harbaugh was suspended 3 games. That didn't matter to this Michigan team as they ran the table throughout their opponents. I mean, they started off the season, just their non-conference opponents. ECU, UNLV, Bowling Green, those may seem like cupcake teams on paper, and for the most part, ECU was. They won 2 games this year. But UNLV won 9 games. They went to a bowl game this year. And Bowling Green won 7 games. They also went to a bowl game this year. They also ran through Ohio State, Penn State, Maryland had a really good year, and so did Rutgers. Beat all of those teams. pretty much how they won how they went 15-0 was on their defense. Their defense allowed 9.5 points per game, which led the whole entire FBS. But their average margin of victory, guys, was almost 26 points. That's their average margin of victory. 26 points, which absolutely led the nation. The best in college football at almost 26 points for the average margin of victory. Guys, this team was dominant. At times, the offense didn't look that great, looked that efficient. They still were beating teams up 49-0 like they did versus Michigan State. Or 52-10 Indiana. 30-24 versus Ohio State. 26-3 versus Iowa. So what does this exactly mean for the program? Well, this is Michigan's first outright title since 1948. It's just first title overall since 1997. I don't know why back then they decided that two teams should share the national championship game. So that's what occurred in 1997 when they shared the trophy. I think it was with Nebraska. Who knows why? But first outright trophy since 1948. Looking ahead, though, to next year's schedule, as we have now 4 Pac-12 teams coming over to the Big Ten, 2 this year, and I believe 2 others in 2025, or maybe all 4 coming over this year. For sure, I know Oregon and Washington are coming over this year. Oh, USC and UCLA are also coming over this year. So we're having 4 teams come over to the Big Ten this year. Everything's going to change next year. Looking ahead at Michigan's schedule, which is already out there and has its dates. I mean, they're playing Fresno State to open up the year. They were a 9-4 team this year. 9-4 team. They're playing Texas, who was in the semifinal game. Arkansas State, they won 6 games. They made a bowl appearance. USC and Washington, who they just played in the national championship game. Guys, the easiest one of their non-conference schedule, or at least their early part of their schedule, is maybe Arkansas State, who won 6 games. There are no real pushovers next year, looking into it. And with that comes the pressure of winning. You just won the national championship game. Every time you step foot on that field, all your opponents are going to try and knock you off. Whether or not you open up the season as the number 1 ranked team or some other ranking, every team's going to look at you and try to beat you because you were the reigning national champion. That is what each player for next year has to prepare for and has to know. That there's an extra chip on your opponent's shoulder because of that. And not just mentioning that, but part of their opponents that they're playing next year, as I mentioned, they're playing Washington. It's at Washington. That's for sure going to be labeled as a revenge game, as far as the Husky fans are concerned. That one has me nervous a little bit. I mean, could they not have maybe made that a neutral site game? You got to go play at Washington. So that one could definitely be interesting. As that'll basically kick off in the heart of the college football season. The last little bit here, there's been a lot of rumors swirling. A lot of people speculating on Harbaugh's future if he stays with Michigan, if he's headed to the NFL. He's most likely headed to the NFL. Which team might get him? You know, why would he stay? Why wouldn't he stay at Michigan? All the above. If you're asking me, and I'm asking me, I believe Harbaugh is staying with Michigan. I think he did what he set out to do. He beat Ohio State, became a Big Ten champion, and brought them a national championship trophy. If you want to continue your legacy, stay. you still have some key foundational pieces there. Yes, you were able to win because you had a lot of guys returning. You had a lot of key pieces staying. You might have a little bit more new faces and new areas this coming year, but you still have some strong leftover teams from this championship team that have to stay because of eligibility. Harbaugh's got a lot of influence at the university. I mean, he pretty much is going to run the show there. Would he have any obligation to stay? No, he fulfilled his commitment, but look, who's got it better than us? Nobody. Nobody. And with the news of Nick Saban retiring, I mean, that's just going to open up the floodgates of South recruiting even more. Because that roadblock of Alabama isn't there anymore. Now, things have been hard because if you looked at Michigan's recruiting, they don't necessarily have top or 5-star recruits coming in here and there. They don't really have people coming in from the transfer portal here or there. But they have the right pieces in. They have the right foundational pieces in place. They have the right coaches. They just won this national championship with only 2 5-star recruits on their team. That was the quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, and that was the cornerback, Will Johnson. That was it. Everyone else is a 4 3-star player. That's what coaching is. That's what developing is. All credit in the world goes to Harbaugh for doing that. And he has proven that he can do that and continue to do that. So with this new philosophy that he has undertaking since the COVID year, it's worked. And if you want to continue your legacy, chase after the Dabo Sweeneys or the Urban Meyers or the Pete Carrolls of the world, and then at the very top of the mountain it's Nick Saban. It starts here. I mean, he did something. Bo Schembechler wasn't able to get a title, but is revered as the best coach in Michigan history. Harbaugh has a chance now to have an argument with that because he has a trophy. And if you could just continue and build off of that, that gives you more of a case. So I think he is staying for all the reasons above. And just he's always a Michigan man. His heart will always rely in Ann Arbor. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment of them winning. I mean, the celebration, to watch the team run in the field, to overjoyed of emotions that came upon me when the clock just went down to 0. Absolutely incredible. I mean, again, I will always remember in time where I was when it happened. And I hope a dynasty is in the making. And that is the note that I will leave today's episode on. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I apologize if I sound a little different. Just got a little frog in the back of the throat is all. But we will push through that, just like Michigan will push through the potential pressure storm that is coming next year. So hail to the victors. Go Blue. I'll see you guys next week.